Hi, everybody. I'm Faith Adams, Senior Analyst at Forrester Research, working with customer experience professionals. And I'm here today to talk to you about a topic that I'm so passionate about. It's about how being connected and enabled are two keys to customer experience success. So I'm going to first start out with a bit of a personal story, one that started out as an exceptional experience. It was almost too good to be true. We purchased a condo. Everything went swimmingly. I mean, down to dealing with the lender, the appraisal, the inspection, everything had been going just swimmingly. We got new appliances. Well, we ordered new appliances. And being the digitally savvy customer that I like to think that I am, I just wanted to make it easy. So I made my purchase online with a large retailer and set up the delivery date, and everything, again, seemed like it was going well. Come Saturday morning, I'm waiting, I'm anxious, all of our appliances are gone, and 11:59, there's nobody here yet. And then I get a frantic phone call from one of the stores saying that the items weren't picked up. I don't know how that happened. I still don't know how that happened. I started frantically calling the customer service team, texting the customer service team. Over the course of many hours, I was texting, calling a lot of people, and not really getting the answers that I was looking for. I finally was able to connect with the logistics company that was responsible for the one item that was picked up, and they told me that they were eventually going to be there. They were just running a little bit behind. This came from somebody within their service organization. Well, that never did make it to our place, I would like to say. And during the course of all of that, I received multiple requests for feedback. I was getting inundated with survey after survey from 2 different technology vendors. Meanwhile, I was proactively telling them everything that was breaking down. What made this so infuriating was that I could tell that this company had the best of intentions by collecting my feedback, but yet they weren't delivering on any aspect of the experience at this point. They never delivered that refrigerator. You can see it here on the truck. In fact, our building actually has cameras and a 24-hour concierge. They claim that they tried to deliver, but nobody was home. They were never here. So put simply, there was a lot of fragmentation and a lot of disconnects. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. Essentially, how being connected and enabling and empowering your people can really help you deliver a more exceptional experience. I often talk to Forrester clients about this. You know, just bad experiences, they often stem from those disconnected people, process, and even technologies that are often supposed to better serve your customers. You know, we see this stemming from these disconnects first and foremost. The digital experience was definitely not well connected to the retail stores that were responsible for fulfillment. I was not made aware early on that I was going to have orders fulfilled out of multiple locations, and that I might or might not receive 2 phone calls from 2 different stores confirming my delivery time. This ties to the second point. Multiple retail stores were responsible for the fulfillment of that single order. Again, no transparency and no communication really about that earlier on in the experience, even though they had multiple weeks to get this right. Third, 3 of the 4 items purchased were actually never picked up for delivery, and I never got any answers there. 2 items were coming from one store, 2 items were coming from the other. Somehow 1 item was left when the refrigerator was picked up. The other 2 were never picked up at all. So how did that happen? The service teams, whether it be the texting customer service or calling customer service, they didn't seem well aligned. They were both missing key information. They really weren't empowered to give me any answers. In fact, I believe I still have screenshots and text messages that highlight, well, I don't know. I'm just in customer service. I'm sharing the information that I have available to me. That wasn't what I wanted to hear as somebody who was just hoping to get their appliances and now was sitting with virtually no appliances at home. And then to make matters worse, and this is where all that trust started to break down, that third-party delivery company, they just really were extremely disconnected and didn't really seem to care. I still would love to know where they did go that day, where they claimed that they were here, and there's no video of them at the loading dock or even in our parking lot, even though they claimed that they were here and we just weren't here to get it. So essentially, there was many different breakdowns here. There were breakdowns in different people and teams and partners with the third-party delivery company. And you have to wonder, did they have the right tools? Did they have the right information? Did they have the right skills? Were they being trained and enabled to deliver a better customer experience? And my gut tells me no, based on the experience that I had endured. So this shouldn't be surprising though, because candidly, for many organizations, customer experience still looks a lot like this. So despite the best of intentions and this passion or desire to improve customer experience, it's not enough. Companies have to do things differently. I like to share this information. This is from data that we have from Forrester's Customer Experience Index that looks at ease, effectiveness, and emotion. It's really disappointing to say that for 4 years in a row, 0% of brands are excellent. So despite all these hefty investments in customer experience technologies, resources, even consulting and training, CX still really isn't great, and it's really not improving. I will say that there was a little bit of, I try to see the silver lining here. We did see a small jump in the number of brands that were good and less that were poor. So I'm going to consider that a win, but there's so much more work to be done. So, why is it that companies, despite these investments, why do they continue to struggle to improve? Well, I like this statistic. This comes from a recent State of Voice of Customer and CX Measurement Program study that we did. Buyin at the top continues to be a challenge for many organizations, and then building that engagement and buy-in up and down the organization. Because of this, it makes it really difficult for customer experience efforts to essentially scale the entire organization. And that's not surprising to me, and we'll talk a lot more about this as we continue. And you could have seen this a little bit in the example that I had shared of my buying my appliances experience. A lack of collaboration continues to be a big challenge in many organizations, really hindering them to transform their customer experience. Different teams are going about things on their own rather than in a more cohesive way, when I like to say the sum of all parts can be far more impactful and powerful together. Culture continues to be a challenge. Again, we talk a lot about having an outside-in perspective, being able to step in the customer's shoes. And employees require training and to be empowered and enabled to be able to do that. But yet 31% of companies cite that as a challenge. 27% cite that they don't have a clear CX strategy and vision. And that is one of their biggest obstacles to transforming customer experience. Well, how do you develop a plan in that strategy if you don't have like a guiding principle, or you don't have that guiding light, that vision to kind of narrow down and focus on, and then build your plan and your path to success? And then, of course, budget. Budget is oftentimes a concern. We're seeing more and more now that folks are asking, well, how can I streamline my investments? How can I make more of what I have in place? Well, it's not just about acquiring new technologies. I like to remind people, as I said, it's about really helping your organization realize the value of making investments in customer experience. This can be done by making the most of what you already have available to you. So understanding different use cases, different stakeholder needs, different technologies and tools that are in place. What are the goals that the organization is essentially chasing, and aligning to how customer experience can help support that. And then voice of customer teams, they continue to struggle to really mature their programs and move from what we talk about being a foundational, more survey, basic program to something that is more state-of-the-art. And at the state-of-the-art level, that's where you achieve data integration across all data types. So connecting the dots across the organization, experiencing the sum of all of those different parts. It means being able to create and embed a very smart strategic prioritization framework. It means creating a culture that embraces and demands that voice of the customer. It means making the voice of the customer a part of the design process and further embedding customer experience into your organization. But yet, these programs continue to remain stuck. So why is that? Well, the silos that I've alluded to, they continue to get in the way. It very much hinders organizations from realizing the benefits of exactly why they're in this and what they're trying to do. They'll have marketing and social teams, social media teams that are often doing their own thing. There could be partners, third-party partners that are also collecting customer feedback, but then not sharing it back with the brand. Different lines of business could be going about things on their own. Product is often on its own. And so the list goes on. This isn't even all inclusive. This is just representative of many of the organizations that I work with on a continued basis. And this was very clear with that example that I shared from that company that shall remain nameless. It was clear that the digital, the retail, and the service and delivery teams were not working in collaboration with one another. And that if they were willing to work and collaborate, they could be far more effective together. So what does it take to stand out in the crowd and to be that organization that does start to transform and become that top tier excellent brand when it comes to customer experience? First off, I always like to use this quote. It means a lot to me coming from the practitioner space, and I would constantly remind people of this. Meaningful innovation does not need to be based on outright invention. Rather, there is an exhilarating shortcut. It is based on bold new combinations of already existing components that simultaneously unlock heightened levels of consumer value and reduce costs. Well, with many organizations that I've worked with, they're already sitting on many different tools and technologies. They've made a lot of pretty hefty investments. And many of them, if they were a little bit more strategic about it, they could unlock more value and save money. And so at Forrester, we talk a lot about how customer experience does a couple of different things. It's not just about making things much better for the customer. Yes, that plays a huge, huge role, but it's also about contributing to the creation of that customer-centric culture, sharing those customer verbatim, sharing that voice of the customer, good and bad, telling those stories about how they can continue to improve or what it means to the customer, developing that empathy. And then lastly, it's about delivering business outcomes as well. So if you are able to unlock the value of all the work that's already being done, you're going to be able to just really take your program to that next level and also show your organization the money. It's about reducing service costs. It's about driving engagement. It's about contributing to that cross-sell and upsell potential and really strengthening the relationship and creating a more sticky relationship with your customer. And that could be done if you invest in customer experience, but also if you're strategic about it. One of the shortcuts that I've seen many of the successful organizations do is they've become more connected through collaboration. It doesn't necessarily mean reorganizing in a way that one team is responsible. It could be about a variety of different things. It's about finding ways to increase collaboration and contribute to getting more of that buy-in and support. It's about coming together around the customer rather than actually just working in isolation. It means looking at a wealth of feedback and insights and data across your organization. What many companies don't seem to understand is that voice of customer isn't just solicited feedback. It's their behaviors. It's some of the actions that they take. It's what are they engaging with. It's about online comment cards. It's about in-app feedback. It could be your contact center calls. If you have formal complaints process, customers are already sharing a wealth of information about their experiences with brands through ratings and reviews. Operational systems, chats, customer emails for some organizations. The list goes on. But the power of all these different sources together is what's going to be more impactful. By unifying your voice of customer efforts and creating that bigger picture view of your experience, you're no longer inundating your customers with feedback requests. You're able to get to a better level of the right insights. The requests that customers do receive could be consistent on brand using the same design, wording, scales, approaches. And this creates a more coherent experience and enables a standardization of measurement, for example, across the organization. And by connecting to those other data sources like operational systems, interaction analytics, the organizations can become more strategic even about when, where, and how they're asking customers for feedback. So for example, this was a financial service firm, and I still remember hearing them speak at this conference a couple years ago. One customer received over 100 surveys in a month. Not exactly a great customer experience. That for them, though, was the catalyst of taking a step back and unifying their program and realizing that, hey, we all need to be in this together. We can't let different lines of business do this on their own. Better prioritization. So hot off the presses is we have some data from that VOC measurement and VOC and CX measurement study that was done, my apologies, that talked about 75% of organizations struggling with prioritization. They don't really have a cohesive way to identify what they should be doing next. So for example, one organization really couldn't understand the why behind their experience. They thought that they had a defective product that people just didn't like. They wondered why they had spent so much time and energy in pretty much trying to bring this product to market the way that they did. Well, quickly what they realized is that they didn't have the context and the information behind it. And by really being able to look at other data sources, they were able to uncover that. And the beauty of this story is that that product actually then became one of their most successful. So by truly understanding why the customers were struggling with the product, they were able to make minor fixes, things that didn't even cost a ton of money. They added a sticker to the box and added some copy to the website. So that helped the customer understand that it's not a defective product, it's that it's just not charged out of the box. And then lastly, there's the financial benefits of this. You know, not only is there oftentimes a fragmented and multi-technology approach being taken to CX and the voice of the customer, well, there's also oftentimes different teams focusing on different things, not being able to tell the value story. I joke that I still have some stress from my past as a practitioner. I still remember what that cost per call was in the contact center. It would tie everything back to that. So if you're able to help people see the money that's being put at risk by not creating this cohesive view, that's another opportunity to show about that sum of all parts. One of the ways that you can actually be able to do that is sitting right in front of many organizations. It starts with empowering your customer service and contact center teams to play a leading role. And what I like to talk about here is that the contact center is a treasure trove of data and insights about where your customers are already getting stuck. It helps you understand more of that deeper context behind the experiences, not just what was necessarily failing them, or it's not just based on a call indicator. And then that enables you to take that information coming from the calls, the chats, even those front lines and what they're experiencing to help them better become educated, trained, and actually be able to deliver on a better experience. So I'm going to tie this back to the story that I started today with. What could have been done better for that organization to really improve customer experience? Well, I think first and foremost, it really would have started with people, understanding people both internal and external. So what are the needs of different stakeholders? What's working? What's not working? Where are the gaps in those experiences? Where do these different teams and departments connect to one another? How do they connect to the customer? It was clear that they were making investments in customer experience, which, like I said, I commend and I appreciate, but it just simply wasn't delivering. So if they really understood what was happening across the different silos and how they were very much connected, they would better understand where those breakdowns are happening and identify the right ways to start to improve the connectivity and being able to bring people together to play their part. And by doing this is where process comes into play. You can develop a lot of frameworks and approaches and a strategy to take that understanding of your internal and external customers, which includes your employees, to taking things to a whole new level. You create that strategy around what's already in place and identifying those goals and needs of the organization and marrying that to that of the customer. And then lastly, making the most of the technology. It was clear that that organization had made a number of investments in technology, but yet they weren't being realized to the fullest. The fact that here we are a year later, nobody has still closed the loop with me. Well, I was told that they don't have the closed loop follow-up capabilities. So there's a huge opportunity in really maximizing the tools, technologies that are in place. That being said, technology is not the panacea. It's not going to solve all of your CX woes. That's because so much of this stems from that focus on people and process first. And then when you develop a strategy, you can make the most of your technologies that you have in place as well. So coming out of today, what would I love to see you do? I think that coming out of this, you should take a step back and look at your people, your process, and your technology to determine how you can better align behind the customers that you serve and help transform your customer experience. Thank you for your time today.